Happy Monday and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for July 29th, 2024, the 211th day of the year, the 31st Monday, as we head into the final week of the month already. Hope you had a great and safe weekend. Today is National Chicken Wing Day, which means there are going to be many wing specials happening everywhere. According to some daily calendars, today is also National Lasagna Day, which I would much rather have than wings, obviously. Based on social media over the weekend, the Olympics were over for some people before they even got started after Friday night's opening ceremonies. As of this morning, Team USA leads the medal count with 12, but only 3 of those are gold. China, Japan, South Korea, and Austria all have more gold medals than the United States as of early this morning anyway. It's the first Monday in a couple of weeks, thankfully, that we don't have history-making weekend news to cover, but it was still a very active weekend in the race for the White House, right? Former President Donald Trump holding a rally in St. Cloud, Minnesota, where he spoke about Saturday's deadly airstrike on Israel.
Before we begin, I want to condemn the evil attack on Israel that took place earlier today. A missile launched by Hezbollah killed at least a dozen children, young children. And they were playing, as you heard, on a soccer field in Israeli territory on the Golan Heights, a place that I recognized during my administration as under Israel's sovereignty. It was a big thing. I've been trying to get it done for 72 years. I got it done in about 1 hour. The savage Hezbollah terrorists struck these children with an Iranian precision missile. Dozens more were wounded in the attack, and sadly, the death toll is probably going to go very substantially higher. Our hearts go out to the families of these innocent children. No parent should have to suffer the terrible loss of a child at the hands of terrorists or anybody else. Today's attack on Israel cannot be forgotten, and it will go down as another moment in history created by a weak and ineffective United States president and vice president. They wouldn't have done this if I were the president. They wouldn't have done it. And they didn't. With time, this situation will only get worse for our country with the kind of leadership that we have right now, which is no leadership. It's probably worse than no leadership. It's negative. It's negative leadership. It must galvanize Republicans, Democrats, independents, conservatives, progressives, libertarians, and everybody else to put strength, respect, and power back into the USA where it belongs. This attack, just like the attack on October 7th or the Ukraine-Russia war, think of it, nor would country-busting inflation. You know, inflation is destroying our country. None of it would have happened. It would have never happened if we were president. It wouldn't have happened. It's a dangerous and terrible time for the world. And it's almost the entire fault of incompetent Biden-Harris administration. She who says that she wasn't the border czar. She wasn't the border czar for 3 years. She was the border czar. She let it be known, I am the border czar. Then she never went to the border. She's terrible. She's worse than he is, I'll tell you right now. I want to be nice. They all say, I think he's changed. I think he's changed since 2 weeks ago. Something affected him. No, I haven't changed. Maybe I've gotten worse, actually, because I get angry at the incompetence that I witness every single day, the way millions of people are pouring into our country.
Trump, of course, spent a lot of time criticizing Vice President Harris on the border, on San Francisco, and what happened a few years ago there in Minnesota.
Every voter in Minnesota needs to know that when the violent mobs of anarchists and looters and Marxists came to burn down Minneapolis 4 years ago, remember me? I couldn't get your governor to act. He's supposed to call in the National Guard or the Army, and he didn't do it. I couldn't get your governor. So I sent in the National Guard to save Minneapolis while Kamala Harris sided with the arsonist and rioter and and raised money to bail out the criminals, bail them all out of jail. Remember? I kept waiting for his call. You remember the guy from CNN, the reporter, so-called? I won't use his name. I don't want to embarrass. Shaved head, nice-looking head, actually shaved. And he goes, "This is a friendly demonstration." And behind him, the entire city was burning. Remember, it was like a war zone. The entire city was burning down. And as he was speaking, somebody threw like a hand grenade at his feet and broke his knee. This is a friendly rally. No, you know what's a friendly rally? This is a friendly rally.
Donald Trump at a Make America Great Again rally in St. Cloud, Minnesota on Saturday, where he was introduced by his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance. Trump's next rally is scheduled for this Wednesday in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Vance, by the way, will have two rallies in Nevada tomorrow, Henderson and Reno. Vice President Harris, who attended her first major fundraiser as the presumptive Democratic nominee on Saturday in Massachusetts, is headed to Philadelphia today for a campaign event with Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro.
You could not have a clearer contrast between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Now, let me tell you something. He's pretty afraid.
Shapiro is said to be among the three contenders as Harris's running mate or future running mate. Donald Trump also spoke at the crypto conference in Nashville over the weekend, which he also used as a platform against his new opponent.
We have a country to run. The problem is that Kamala is worse than Joe. She's worse. She's a radical left lunatic, defund the police, all of the different things. And so far she's got a little honeymoon going on right now, but when people hear about her, and she's against crypto, by the way, and she's against it very big. So I just want to let you know, you got to get out. You got to get out and vote. It should be no surprise that these same totalitarians are hell-bent on crushing crypto and obliterating, and that's what they want to do, and that's what they are stated. They're there right now. You have the SEC, you know what they're doing, obliterating Bitcoin. The reason could not be more clear, because Bitcoin stands for freedom, sovereignty, and independence from government, coercion, and control.
Trump at the crypto conference in Nashville. Mark Cuban and some of the other anti-Trump crypto billionaires aren't complaining today, with Bitcoin up well over $1,000 since Trump's comments. Mark Cuban, you may remember, was supposed to be consulting Biden or the Biden campaign on crypto. So we'll see if he's going to try and help Kamala Harris come around a bit on crypto. Meanwhile, President Biden, the person who is still the president, or at least representing the office, who has been completely dismissed by the media, spent his weekend at Camp David and travels to Texas today, where he'll commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act at the LBJ Library in Austin. That's this afternoon. Then he'll go to Houston to pay respects to Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who passed away last week at the age of 74. Her death didn't get that much coverage last week, with Biden being forced out and Kamala being ushered in. But Lee represented Texas in Congress for nearly 30 years, and she was originally from Queens, New York. She wasn't the consummate native Texan that a lot of people thought. This is Newsmax host Lidia on Sunday Agenda.
Isn't it funny, right, that the party that can't define what a woman is suddenly propping up one on a pedestal because she is a woman, and a bonus, a woman of color. MSDNC's Michael Steele posting a photo, that one right there, of Kamala as Captain America. It's now gone viral. Kamala hailed as a superhero because, unlike Joe Biden, she can climb stairs. She can ride a bike. All of it almost as fantastical as the Biden regime trying to convince us that Joe stepped aside all on his own, when we all know that Democrats shoved him aside, and that the real reason Joe is out of this race now is because the mega-rich Democrat donor class, they turned off the spigot of cash to his campaign, privately and publicly.
The ship has sailed, and there is basically almost no support remaining for him as the candidate, not against him personally, but because nobody thinks he can beat Trump. And I think, unfortunately, that's correct.
It's always been about the money. Democrats, they never care that Joe Biden couldn't do the job, about his mental decline. Those factors are actually a plus for the oligarchs. Joe's been in office for 52 years now, so it's no secret who Joe Biden is, well before even stepping into the White House with Barack Obama.
I have a record that people can go back and examine and decide whether or not I mean what I say, whether, no matter how I say it, whether I'm consistent with what I've asserted I care about. That's all I care about. And, but, you know, there's going to be a lot, I'm sure, a lot of things said about it.
I like who he is, and I think the American people will.
Yeah, you liked him so much, Barack, that you stabbed him in the back, and you and your cohorts dropped Joe faster than a toddler with an ice cream cone after that disastrous debate. So then, as per usual, the rich donor class, they had to install a new puppet, that woman right there. And this time, of course, it's Kamala Harris, who is now staying perfectly on script these days, have you noticed? You see, this is the real reason why the left, they hate Trump so much. Because no one pulls Trump's strings. No one. Except for God.
But if the events of last Saturday make anything clear, it is that every single moment we have on earth is a gift from God.
And that's why Democrats, they mock us when we talk about God, because they think they're gods. Did you see? Look at this photo right here. At the Olympics, during their opening ceremony, making a mockery of the Last Supper. They're not even trying to hide their disdain for Christians any longer. They're telling us right to our face that they hate us, they loathe us, they mock us, but God will not be mocked. The swamp creatures are emboldened to do whatever they want, from mocking God to disregarding the 14 million people who voted for Joe Biden in the primaries. Screw your democracy. We are going to pick the candidates, the Democrats say.
That's Newsmax host Lidia, who also said the Democrats and the media are trying to paint the vice president as a moderate, and she is anything but that.
Right now, Kamala, she's on a tight leash because they've had major reservations about her, not just because of her nonsensical word salads, the reports of her foul language, the angry outbursts. They're all indicative of a person who lacks self-control.
We have to know that sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open. Sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that f***ing door down.
That's not becoming. Come on. Nothing funny about using foul language. Kamala's erratic behavior, that weird cackle, and her personal skills, they're also a real issue. In the past 3 years, her office has seen a 92% turnover rate. Think about that. Almost her entire office has quit since she became the vice president. She's not well liked by anyone. Her managerial skills, they're abysmal. And her policies, they're as far left as you can get.
I'm not in favor of decriminalizing or not having consequence for it. We have to keep, let me just be very clear. We have to have a secure border. But I am in favor of saying that we're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminals. That's correct. That is correct.
Did you notice not even audience members at The View clapped when she said that she wants to decriminalize illegal crossings? Kamala also, she wants to defund the police.
For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong.
Unbelievable. How is that wrong, right? Who would have thought adding more cops would lead to more safety? So what's the answer here? More programs, Kamala? Despite the media now trying to paint Kamala as a moderate, would a moderate push those radical policies?
There's no reason in the world that this country should tolerate having a person come from another country and burn our flag, desecrate our monuments, spit on the very sacred honor of those who have given us our freedom. If they hate it that much, don't bother coming. I totally agree with what you said. I think it's ridiculous that we would think that people have a right, some right, to come to our country and insult us. There is no right to do that. We love having immigrants come to America. We wish that people would want to come, be part of this country, make it better. bring your ideas, bring your zest for freedom. But don't come and spit on us, because we'll just show you the door and send you walking.
And I know that Kamala Harris put out a statement condemning all this, but I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it. This woman intentionally disrespected the Israeli prime minister. Her butt should have been up on Capitol Hill. Instead, she was hanging out with sorority sisters. That's just unforgivable in my estimation.
Well, and then she acted like she had the authority to lecture Benjamin Netanyahu on how to prosecute the war against Hamas. First of all, she's not the president. She's the vice president. And she's a candidate for president, but she does not have the authority to go and dress down the prime minister of a foreign country and tell him what he ought to be doing in terms of bringing an end to the war and being more humane. What she should be saying is, what you folks experienced in Israel on October the 7th of 23 was so hideous that we stand with you. With not a bit of daylight between us, we want you to get rid of Hamas. We want you to get the hostages back, because 5 of them are Americans, and we stand with you. That's what she needs to say. She needs to quit trying to satisfy Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who can never be satisfied until there's not a living Jew on the planet.
Former Governor Mike Huckabee on Newsmax with Todd Starnes. As I was making some notes, I inadvertently wrote, or maybe it was the autocorrect, I wrote Mike Huckster. And if you've been listening, you know sometimes I refer to his comments or his commentary as Yuckster. Now I might just start calling him Huckster the Yuckster. All right, anyway, you can catch the Todd Starnes Show, 5 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax 2. And with all that being said about Kamala Harris, Joe Pinion has a stark reality check.
We have a public service announcement. Do not underestimate the political left's capacity for duplicity in this election. And do not underestimate the willingness of millions of voters to cut off their nose to spite their face, and particularly Donald J. Trump, in the process of destroying the United States of America as we know it. Now, 1 week ago today, Donald J. Trump left Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Republican nominee, after a successful 4-day convention dedicated to defining Joseph Robinette Biden as a weak, elderly man with poor memory whose presidency has imperiled the world. Well, 7 days later, Joe Biden is out of the race. The DNC has selected Kamala Harris as their presumptive nominee without a single vote cast in her name. And the media has asked America to believe Joe Biden is unfit to seek re-election, but completely suitable to continue sleeping at the White House. In a sane world, this election would be over. The arrogance and contempt of the political left towards their voters serving as that final straw to break the back on the hopes of their 2024 election. But these are not normal times. This is not your mom or dad's Democratic Party, and the media that we depend on for the truth is less like Walter Cronkite and more like George Orwell, 1984. You see, the media, they have long exhibited left-leaning bias, but in the last 7 days, we have witnessed in real time the media and the DNC work in tandem, not just to create the legend of Kamala Harris, but quite literally rewrite history before our very eyes. First came the nationwide coordinated rollout of the Kamala Harris was never the borders are a lie, a statement so crazy it feels ripped from an alternative timeline. Until you realize they are actually creating that alternative timeline before our very eyes. Wikipedia deleting Kamala Harris as the border czar. Axios deleting the article referring to Kamala Harris as the border czar. And then organization after organization, all of whom covered her, being designated as the border czar, diligently trotting out their lead 7-figure anchors to pretend all of it, none of it, ever happened. GovTrack.us, it is a non-profit organization, allegedly nonpartisan. They have tracked and rated politicians based on their voting record since the year 2005. Well, they went and deleted their 2019 report on then Senator Kamala Harris, where they called her the most liberal member of the Senate. Did it in the middle of the night. It was just gone. no explanation, no justification. It simply did not fit into the legend of Kamala Harris they are attempting to create out of thin air.
That's Newsmax host and former New York Senate candidate Joseph Pinion on Newsmax. You may have seen that viral piece going around last week of CBS's Norah O'Donnell with Vice President Harris. It was an interview where she referenced the GovTrack rating of Harris as the most liberal member of the Senate. The next day, it had been deleted. And yes, Joe did say Axios and others have deleted references of Kamala Harris as the border czar. It is just downright scary. Like something you might see in a spy movie, but it's not some spy movie. It's real life in America. Pay very, very close attention. Again, this all from the party pushing democracy, or that Trump's going to take away democracy. By the way, if you missed Friday's Newsmax Daily, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. There was some great commentary in there as well from Rob Finnerty, voters on the streets of New York City talking about Kamala Harris, and an interview with former Democratic presidential candidate Congressman Dean Phillips on Joe Biden and the Democrat Party that you'd probably be interested in hearing. On Wall Street, it's the start of a major earnings week this week. The likes of Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta. The markets opened well into the green this morning. That, at least, is the good news. Those earnings are definitely going to shake things up as the week goes on. Be sure to keep up with all of the news on Newsmax, Newsmax.com, and on Newsmax Plus, where you get the most complete lineup of all your favorite shows and guest hosts, like Rob Schmidt tonight, Greg Kelly Reports, Greta Van Susteren, Carl Higbee, Wake Up America, and much more, with analysis from people like Governor Mike Huckabee, former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, political analyst Mark Halpern, Judge Napolitano, Alan Dershowitz, and many others. Oh, Dershowitz was in Friday's Newsmax Daily as well, also talking about Democrats because he's a lifelong Democrat. That's NewsmaxPlus.com. Make sure you get signed up. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Please subscribe from whatever podcast platform you may be listening on. Enjoy the rest of your Monday and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's our America. We conquered it. We built it. Great values like honesty and fairness. Great courage. A great nation needs a free press. Newsmax is it. 30 million Americans regularly go to Newsmax when they really need to know. They watch Newsmax TV at home. On the free Newsmax app, they go to Newsmax.com. Start today. Newsmax is real news for real people.